live. Amazing. Actually, this is really, I mean, it's really handy thingamajig. It's really handy. Live. There we go. Right, so let's make
We're ready to.
Oh no.
Okay.
Right,
I
so
just
we're
want it
going
to
to go
stop.
from the.
I just did the wrong thing. I'm not quite sure how that happened. All right, I suppose it will be all right. It should be okay. I did the thing last time. I pressed the wrong button. Oh, it says it's live on YouTube, so it doesn't matter what button I press. That's good. Okay, great. Now then. Okay, I think it's time that we begin and everybody can join in as we come along. So that would be nice. Okay, so I'll start the recording. Okay, now we know. All right, so we'll start and we'll go on from there. Now, what I need is our tefillah. So we'll start off with that. Here it is. And now I need to share my screen. I'll get good at this one day. There we are. Okay. All right. Okay. ריבון עולמי ואדוני אדונים, אב רחמן וסליחות, מודים אנחנו לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ולאבותינו, בקידה בשתחוויה, שקרבתנו לתורתך ולעבודתך עבודת הקודש, ונתת לנו חלק בסודות תורתך הקדושה, מה אנו ומחיינו, אשר עשית עמנו חסד גדול כזה. על כן, אנחנו מפילים תחנוננו לפניך, שתמחור ותסלח לכל חטאותינו ועוונותינו, ואל יהיו עוונותינו מבדילים בינינו לביניך, וכן יהי רצון מלפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ולאבותינו, שתכונן את לבבינו ליראתך ולבבך. תקשיב אוזניך לדברינו אלה, ותפתח לבבינו הערל בסודות תורתך, ויהיה לימודנו זה נחת רוח, לפני כיסא כבודך כרך ניחוח, ותציל עלינו אור מקור נשמתנו בכל בחינתנו, שיתנוצצו ניצוצות עבודך הקדושים, אשר על ידם גלית דבריך אלה בעולם, וזכותם, וזכות אבותם, וזכות תורתם ותמימותם וקדושתם, יעמוד לנו לבן לקשר בדברים אלו. ובזכותם תראיננו במה שאנו לומדים, כמאמר נעים זמירות ישראל, גל עיני והביט הנפלאות מתורתך, כי אדוני תן חוכמה מפיו, דעת ותבונה, יהיו לו רצונים מפי, ויגון ליבי לפניך, אדוני צורי וגואלי. Amen. Master of the universe and Lord of lords, Father of mercy and forgiveness, we give thanks before you, O Lord our God and God of our fathers, in bowing the head and prostrating ourselves, that you brought us close to your Torah and to your service, the holiest of services, and you've given to us a portion of the inner meanings of your holy Torah. What are we and what is our life, that you've dealt with us such a great loving kindness as this? Therefore we lay our supplication before you, that you've pardoned and forgive all our sins and iniquities, and do not let our iniquities separate us from you. And may it be your will, O Lord our God and God of our fathers, that you prepare our hearts to have reverence of you and love of you. And may your ears listen to these our words. Open our uncircumcised heart in the inner meanings of your Torah. And may this our learning give pleasure before the throne of your glory as a sweet-smelling fragrance. Bestow upon us the light of the source of our soul in all its aspects. And may the sparks of your holy servants, to whom you revealed these your words into the world, shine forth. And may their merit and the merit of their fathers, the merit of their Torah, their wholeness and holiness stand by us, that we do not stumble in these words. And through their merit, enlighten our eyes on what we are learning. As the sweet singer of Israel said, open my eyes, and I will look on the wonders of your Torah. For the Lord gives wisdom from his mouth, knowledge and understanding. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable before you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Amen. Okay, great. So we all been we all know more or less the story of Korach's rebellion, which we read in the Parsha last week. And one of the things that's very, very, very important to understand that we get from the Zohar, in fact, is the understanding that the Torah is not a history book. Okay, it actually says this in specifically. And in fact, it's one of the pieces of the Zohar that actually brought into the biography of Rabbi Ashlag, Master of the Ladder, because it was something that was very important to him to understand that the Torah is not a history book, and all the events which we are learning about in the Torah, for example, during the time that the children of Israel came out of Egypt, they had one adventure after another, all right? It's not to tell us history, but to tell us something about our own relationship with God, okay? And to understand what our relationship with God is and what this story about Korach is teaching us about it, we actually need the Zohar. We need the Zohar, and we also need the interpretation of the Zohar, which was given by Rabbi Ashlag and his son, Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag. Okay, so this is what we're going to look at today. All right, what does this mean for us? Okay, we know the story that Korach got annoyed that he wasn't chosen to be a Kohen, okay, and he made a rebellion, and finally he got swallowed up by the earth. Okay, so that was the outline. All right, but what does it mean for us? What does it have to tell us in our work? Okay, so this is what we're in our service of God. So this is what we're going to be looking at specifically today. So here we have the Zohar on Korach. And what we're going to do is we'll start off with just with a small piece from the Zohar, okay? It won't take us too long, I don't think. All right. And then we're going to go to the articles by Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag. Now, Rabbi Ashlag's firstborn son had an amazing ability of putting his father's very high words, he put them into simple language, okay? And then his articles are very, very useful for that reason. Okay, so here we have the Zohar, okay? It's actually the first article in the Parshat Korach that we're going to be looking at, okay? There's other articles further along about different aspects of Korach's rebellion, but I thought the first one was perfectly okay for us. V'ikach Korach ben Yitzhar ben Kahat ben Levi v'Gomer. Rabbi Abba Patach, הנכמדים מזהב ומפז רב, ומתוקים מדבש ונופת צופים. כמה עילאים פתגמי אורייתא, כמה יקירין אינון, תאיבין אינון לאלה, תאיבין אינון לקולה, בגין דאינון שמע קדישה. וכל מה דשתדל באורייתא, ישתדל בשמע קדישה. וישתזיב מכולה, ישתזיב בעולמא דין, וישתזיב בעולמא דעתי. תחזי, כל מן דשתדל באורייתא, אחיד באילנה דחיי, כיוון דחיד בי, בכולו אחיד דכתיב עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה. Okay, so ויקח קורח בן יצהר. Rabbi Abba opened his discourse. Okay, so we've got the story of Korach. Okay, opens it with the story of Korach, and straight away, Rabbi Abba is going to tell us something about how wonderful the Torah is. Okay, this is what the story of Korach is telling him to come towards. All right, so Rabbi Abba opened by saying, how pleasant is the Torah, more than gold. It's greater than spun gold and sweeter than honey and the nectar, the nectar of the flowers. How high are the words of Torah? How precious they are. They are delightful above and delightful to everyone because they are God's holy name. And whoever strives in Torah strives in God's holy name and is saved from everything evil. He's saved in this world and he's saved in the world to come. Come and see whoever is occupying himself with Torah is holding on to the tree of life. Okay, the tree of life is faith, all right? And since he's holding on to the tree of life, he's holding on to everything. and it's written, Eitz Chaim hi lemachzikim ba. It's a tree of life to those who hold on to it. So my question is, why did Rabbi Abba bring this particular discussion on the Torah because, when he's going to talk about Korach's rebellion? All right? And I think, and it doesn't go into it, but I think what he's trying to say to us is that Korach rebelled against Moses. All right? He actually, what we're going to see further on, he didn't actually rebel against God, because he says everybody in the congregation is holy. So he wasn't rebelling against God, but he was rebelling against Moses and Moses' rulings, okay, that the priesthood belongs to Aaron, it did not belong to the Levites, okay? And what did Moses do? He brought us the Torah, okay? And so therefore, Rabbi Abba's opening his discourse by saying how beautiful the words of Torah are, how precious they are, how beautiful they are above, how beautiful they are for everybody. Whoever strives in Torah, okay, striving, doesn't say you've got to succeed, just says you've got to try, okay? That's all it asks for, that we try, okay? Is saved from everything evil. Now, what is evil? Evil is receiving for ourselves alone. Evil is just taking for ourselves alone, okay? So what did Korach want to do? He wanted to receive for himself alone, okay? He's saved in this world, and he's saved in the world to come. Whoever is occupying himself with Torah is holding on to faith. He's holding on to the tree of life. And since he's holding on to faith, and of course Moses is called Raya de Mehemenuta, the shepherd of faith, okay? Because Moses was the one, Moshe Rabbeinu was the one who actually gives the quality of faith to the children of Israel, okay? That's what he's actually called, the one of faith, okay? He's holding on to faith, and as it's written, it's a tree of life to those who are holding on to it. Okay, bet. Rabbi Yitzhak amar, kol man dishtadel b'oraita, chayru itzle mikulo, chayru min mita, kamo da'aman. Begin zachayru alei sharye v'achidbei, ilo Yisrael mitatrin b'oraita, ishtazivu mikula, v'lo ishtakhu b'galuta, v'dar dichtiv harut ala luchot, al tikre harut ela chayut. והחירות דה באורייתא ישתכח, אורייתא היא חילה דימינה, כמו שכתוב מימינו אשתת למו, ושמאלו יתקלל בימינה. מן תביד ימינה שמאלה, ושמאלה ימינה, האיהו כאילו חריב עולמה. Rabbi Yitzhak joins in with what Rabbi Abba said. Whoever occupies himself Torah, he's free from everything. He's free from death. What's death in the Kabbalah? It's separation from God. Okay? Because the attribute of Bina is inspiring him, and he's holding on to it. What's Bina? Bina is the desire to give. Okay? That's the Sphira of Bina. He wants to be giving. He wants to be in affinity of form with God. And this is what the Torah actually teaches us. The word Torah actually means instruction, okay? So we need instruction because we have our own nature, which is our will to receive for ourselves alone, okay? And in this particular case, Korach wanted to receive, glory, priesthood, stature for himself alone, okay? So he wanted to receive for himself alone. But the Torah is teaching us the opposite. The Torah is actually teaching us how to be givers, okay? So when a person is able to be giving, he's free. He's free from death. He's free from separation, okay? If Israel would only crown themselves with Torah, they would be saved from everything and they would not be in exile. Okay? Engraved on the tablets. Do not read harut with a chay kamutza, means with an o, ela cherut, with an a, meaning freedom. Don't read engraved, mean freedom. Okay, freedom is engraved on the tablets of stone which Moses brought down. It gives us freedom from our own egos. Freedom from our being confined to what our ego is saying. It really does. It gives us a much broader idea of reality. When we're stuck in our ego, we only see the tunnel vision of our ego reality. Okay? But the Torah opens us up to freedom. Okay? Freedom to be one with God. Okay? It's a totally new paradigm. It really is a totally different paradigm of consciousness. When we're stuck in our ego, all we see is the tunnel vision of that paradigm of receiving. When we get joined with Torah, at least try with Torah, like Rabbi Abba said, just try, okay? Hold on to faith, okay? The Eitz Chaim, hold on to faith. Then we come into a different consciousness altogether, a consciousness which is much broader and much freer. Okay, for this freedom is found in the Torah. HaTorah hi Korach hayamin. The Torah is the power of the right-hand line. What is the right-hand line? It's a code word in Kabbalah, meaning the action of giving. Okay, that's what the right-hand line stands for. It stands for the action of giving. As it's written, Mimino eshtat lamo. From his right hand, there is the fire of religion, I suppose. Now, where's that from? I looked it up and I can't remember. All right, never mind. And the left-hand side needs to be included in the right-hand side. What does that mean? Our left-hand side is the code word for the vessels of receiving, okay? Because a human being is made up of both. He's made up of the desire of the soul, which is the desire to give, and the desire to receive. We're made up of both. We've got soul and we've got body, okay? And we can't ignore one or the other. They have to integrate together, okay? So we have this integration is called the middle line. All right. So everything very often in Judaism, you find the three, it comes in threes. Avram, Yitzhak, Yaakov. Avram's the right, Yitzhak's the left, Yaakov's in the middle. It integrates them both. Okay. Now that type of integration is not sort of a mathematical average. It's actually that the left-hand side becomes closer to the right, that the left-hand side does not receive for itself alone, but is under the domination of the right, if you like, that becomes more giving, all right? However, what does it go on to say? Whoever tries to make the right-hand side left and the left-hand side right, as if he's destroying the world, because God created the world with these attributes. The right-hand line, the soul, should be the aspect of giving, and the left-hand line needs to be the act of receiving. What happened with Korach? Now we're going to come to it. Tachazi, Aaron Yemina, Levi Smola, Korach bai lemevad chilufa diyemina lesmola, ubegin kach itanash, velo od ela dishtakach bei lishna bisha, vitanesh bekulo. Rabbi Huda amar, smola itkalil tadir biyemina, Korach bai la'achlafa tikuna de le'ela v'tata, Begin itavit me'ela v'tata. What happened? Tahazi Aaron Yamina. Come and see. Aaron is the right-hand line, okay? Which is the sphere of the right-hand line is chesed, okay? So you've got the right-hand line is chesed. What's the right-hand line? We said it's giving, okay? Chesed is loving kindness. Chesed is giving. So the Kohanim belong to chesed, the right-hand line. The Levites, however, have a different tchuna, they have a different attribute, characteristic. They're the left-hand line, all right? Shu Gvura. What was Korach? Korach was a Levite. Okay, so he had some very strong vessels of receiving. That's what the Levites, that's their attribute. They are receivers. And in fact, you know, if you look at what happened in the temple, in the Beit HaMikdash, the Kohanim would be standing on the right side of the Beit HaMikdash, which was actually the southern direction. So there would be the south side, okay? And the Levites would be on the left-hand side of the Beit HaMikdash, which would be the north, okay? And they had their duchan there where they would stand and sing, okay, because they were in charge of song, all right, and music, all right. And when the Kohanim would offer up the sacrifice, they would project their voices from the left-hand side to the right, so that they would be included in the right, okay. They would make this inclusion. That was the job of the Levites, all right. Also, the Levites had to serve the Kohanim, okay, not the other way around, okay? Because why? Because the Levites are the left-hand line, which is Gevura, that's their sphira, Gevura, okay? So you've got the Kohanim are Chesed, they're the right-hand line, they're giving, the Levites are the left-hand line, they're receiving, they're Gevura. Korach, Ratzah lasot chiluf hayamin lesmol. He wanted to exchange the givers with the receivers, okay? Sheratzah kuna, he wanted the priesthood, shu yamin. Bishvil leviim, he wanted it for the Levites, shu small. Okay, no, that's not going to work. You have to have the right-hand line as giving, the left-hand line is the receiver, and it needs to come under the aegis of giving. It needs to be calmed down, all right? So because he wanted to take the side of giving, okay, mishum ze ne'nash. For this he was punished. V'lo od, ela shenimtza bo lashon hara. But he also spoke lashon hara. Shedibel Moshe, and he spoke against Moses. Ve'ne'nash b'kol. The whole issue is he didn't believe in Moshe Rabbeinu. That's the whole thing. So he was punished. Rabbi Yehuda Amar, Hasmol nichlal tamid biyamin, shezeu tikono shel hasmol. Rabbi Yehuda teaches us that the left-hand side needs to be included always in the right-hand side, just what we said. And that's the tikkun of the small. The right-hand side doesn't need such a tikkun. It's already giving. It's already in affinity of form with God. But the left-hand line is the problem. Okay, that's why we bind the tefillin on the left. That's why the sacrifices were always given on the left. Okay, all right. You always got to deal with the left-hand line. Left-hand line is the problematic side. All right. He wanted, now he's adding something else here. It's very interesting. Korach wanted to change the tikkun. Now, what's the tikkun? We said Rabbi Abba began this whole thing. He said we've got to hold on to the Eitz Chaim. We've got to hold on to faith. What's faith? Faith is when we give to God from below to above. Okay? From below to above. What does Korach want to do? He wants to get from above to below because he wants to receive. Okay? That's the characteristic of the left-hand line. He wants to receive the light of God by receiving, not by giving. Okay? Now that's going to be blasphemy. That's not going to work. Okay? The Torah, we have to receive the Torah, not to receive a plus, not to receive the great light of Torah, but through emunah, through faith, through the Eitz Chaim, through giving, not through receiving. Okay.
Yedidah?
Yeah.
No, sorry, I got a bit confused now. Because you
Right.
said Korach, he was the Levi'im, and they're the receivers.
Yes.
But then you just said that he didn't want to receive.
Oh, no, I meant he did want to receive. Sorry. He wanted to receive the Torah from above to below. In other words,
he's already a receiver because he's a Levite.
Yes. Okay. Right. So he wants to receive even more.
Okay.
So instead of correcting his desire to receive, he wants to receive the Torah, all the light of Torah, to receive the light of God, to receive the revelation of God, to receive the reality of God. He wants revelation. Okay. He doesn't want to go around in faith. I mean, most of the time, you know, we can't see God. We can't see God acting in the world. So we have to just trust that you know, have to go in trust. We have to go in faith. And that means giving. Okay. That's not what Korach wanted. He wanted it to be, you know, he wanted to get experience. We're going to look in a minute in, hopefully we get there, in Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag's, how he explains this, what Korach wanted. Okay. How he wanted, this was what, like, you know, those peculiar questions that he asks Moses. He says, you know, if you've got a room full of books, do you need a mezuzah? All right. He didn't want to trust Moses. He didn't want to go in faith that what Moses said was right. He wanted to go in logic. And logic is a function of our desire to receive. So he just wanted to receive, you know, the light of God, just as it is, you know. We'll go into that question more. It's a good question. Okay, so he wanted the governance of the Levites, which are the left-hand side. Okay, and so he didn't want to let go and to go with faith and to go with giving. He didn't want to be included with he didn't want the Levites to be subordinate to the Kohanim. Okay. He wanted to receive. So that's how he got. When we want too much light, okay, we can't deal with all that light. And it's like a kind of shvirata kelim. It's kind of like breaking the vessels. And so he actually destroyed himself from above and from below, both above and below. Did it? All right. Vikach Korach, my vikach, nasif eita bisha legame, kol doradaf batar de lav dile, u arik mikame, velo od elamad ipe itavid mine, Korach radif batar de lav dile avid v'achra lo ravach. What did Korach take? What does it mean he took? And the answer is he took a bad advice for himself. Whoever pursues, now this is really good advice. Anyone who chases after something which doesn't actually belong to him, it runs away from him. Not only that, but whatever he did have, he loses. Korach pursued after something that didn't belong to him. Shelo avad. So, and he lost what he did belong to him, which was, which was the tremendous honor of being a Levite. I mean, this is what Moses said. Haven't you got enough? Okay. So Korach not only was trying to chase after something which didn't belong to him. He did not get the priesthood. And he also lost being a Levite. Okay. So that was kind of that. So, you know, there's inside this, you can see there's a lot of very good advice for us. Okay. How to relate to the Torah, how to relate to God, how to be grateful for anything we're able to give to God, and not worry about what doesn't belong to us, not try to get greatness or anything like that. Okay, to stay humble, all right? Not ask for anything that it doesn't really belong to us. And whatever we get from God is to all the time included in the idea of giving, all right? So, this is what I love so much about Zohar, is that on the one hand, it's telling us the inner meaning of the story, but it's also giving us some very good advice at the same time. Korach azil b'machloket. My machloket, plugata. Plugata de le'ela v'tata. Uman debay le'aflaga tikuna de olmait. Avid mikolo almin. Machloket. Plugata de shalom. Man de palig al shalom. Palig al shema kadisha. Begin de shema kadisha shalom ikrei. Korach halach b'machloket. He went by the way of division, causing strife. He didn't just, go up to Moses and say, listen, Moses, I've got a question. I'm not quite clear about my role as a Levite. I think really maybe I should be a Kohen. All right. After all, and he could give all his ta'anot. And he could have done that. Instead of which he got together a whole Yedidah, I think it was 250 other people who also prominent people, got them all together, got them all worked up, formed a party. Okay. I mean, if he just had a genuine question, that would have been something different. After all, we all get muddled up and we all get mistaken and we all make mistakes and we can all get confused. So if it was just a genuine question, listen, I don't really understand my role on the left-hand side. Why shouldn't I be a giver also? Why shouldn't I be a Kohen? All right. That might have been a genuine question. But the Zohar is saying, no, he didn't just have a genuine question. He went in machloket. He got a whole Yedidah. He got a whole community all worked up together with him. Ma machloket, what does machloket do? Harchaka v'dichui. It causes separation, distancing, and rejection. Harchaka v'dichui shelamal u'mata. Separation from God and rejection, both above and below. Whoever wants to put off the correcting of the world, this is what Korach wanted to do. He wanted to upset the whole way, the order of correction through faith. He'll be lost from all the worlds. What is a world? Consciousness. Okay. You could look at, the very dramatic death that Korach and his congregation had. Okay. But you can also look at it like consciousness. If we are chasing after something that doesn't belong to us, if we are trying to rebel, if we're getting, joining up with others who are also rebelling in that kind of way, we're going to lose the consciousness of Torah. That's what we're going to lose. We'll be lost from the consciousness of Torah. This is what the Zohar is telling us, okay? Not telling us particularly, it also might be telling us about, peculiar deaths, like the earth opened up its mouth, etc. But it's really telling us about consciousness. We'll lose our consciousness to get with our soul. What's the soul? The soul's the right-hand line, okay? So we don't want to do that, okay? We want to work for our tikkun, and we want to be connected. What did Korach do? Machloket. What is machloket? It also causes distancing and rejection of peace. Misha cholek shalom. Whoever is trying to disturb the peace, let's put it that way, cholek shema kadosh. He's actually quarreling with the holy name of God. Mishum sheshma kadosh nikra shalom, because one of God's holy names is peace. Tach Kachazi, late Olmakim el al Shalom, Kal Barakud Shaburichu Olma. Lo Yachil Litkaima Adatash Vashalaihu Shalom, Umaihu Shabbat. Du Sholma di Ilai, Vatati, Vikdin it came Olma, Uman deflik alea it avid me Olma. Bora'e, come and see, Ein Olam Omed Ela Shalom. The world only stands on the Shalom. כשברא הקדוש ברוך הוא את העולם, לא היה יכול להתקיים עד שברא וישרה להם שלום. When the Holy Blessed One created the world could not survive until he came and infused it with peace. What is the peace he gave us? Hu Shabbat. This is the Shabbat. Hu Shalom shel elyonim v'tachtonim. It's the wholeness, it's the peace, it's of the high ones and the lower ones. Okay? Vaznit came olam, and then the world can exist. You can look at that in many ways. Shabbat is also me'ein olam haba. It's the finish of the tikkun. But it's that wholeness. It's that moment it's that peace when all is at peace. Whoever causes this, disruption of the peace, he will get lost from the world. And this is what Korach did. I mean, like we said before, he could have asked a simple question, and I don't think all that would have happened to him would have happened if he'd just had a genuine question. I mean, we can all have questions and we can all make mistakes. That wasn't the issue. The issue is he deliberately caused a breach in the shalom. Now, I think that's more or less all we need here. Yes. Let's go now to Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag. Okay. Where is it? Here we are. Okay. Now here, Rabbi Baruch Shalom goes into the story of Korach and uses the Zohar, okay, but goes into it also more in how we work with it. V'ikach Korach. He said this in, I think it's 1940. Gosh, that's early. V'ikach Korach. Korach took bad advice for himself. Ki atzat Hashem lo'olam ta'amod. For the advice of God stands forever. Let me make that bigger for you. There we are. Sorry. That'll be much easier to read.
Can't see the text, Yedidah.
What, love?
We can't see the text.
You can't? Oh dear. Did I forget to share it? Sorry. Thanks for telling me. Oh yes, I did. Sorry, everyone. Okay. All right. Thanks for telling me. Okay. V'ikach Korach lakach eitzah le'atzmo. Korach took bad advice for himself. Ki atzat Hashem lo'olam ta'amod. For the advice of God stands forever. Hinei midah ha'adam hu lasot ma she'hasecha mechayev lo. A normal way of a person is to do what his logic tells him. Shezeh yeh tov b'shvilo, because he understands that will be good for him. V'zeh yachol lasot, and that's what he feels able to do. Ma she'ein kein, ma she'ein hasecha mechayev kashe lo lasot. Is not the case when your logic doesn't agree. Then you find it much more difficult to do something. Mikol shekein mashu keneged hasecha, and especially if it's something which is absolutely opposes your logic. Therefore, lachen sha'al talit shikulo tchelet chayvet betzitzit. Therefore, Korach asked, a talis which is all blue, does it need tzitzis? Okay. Well, Moshe Rabbeinu said it does. Okay. Now that's not logical. All right. So you can see here what the problem was. The sages say Korach was pikeach. It was very clever. All right. A clever person, all right, has more difficulty in letting go of his mind, his rational aspect. But we actually have two main parts of ourselves through which our ego expresses ourselves and which we need to correct. Okay? And this is the mocha v'liba, it's called. All right, mocha is the aspect of our rational self, because we have a big will to receive, that we want everything to be under control, that we understand what's going on and it's all, organized and nicely under control. That's our rational side, that's mocha, okay? And the other side is the heart, is that we want to feel good. We want to feel sensual pleasure. These are the two aspects of the ego. The desire to know everything and to have it under control. And the other part of ourselves is we want to feel good and comfortable. We want to feel sensual pleasure. Now, the tikkun of both of those also exists. The tikkun of the brain, of the rational side, is the desire, is the need to go in faith, because faith really sometimes means just letting go of your logic and just going in faith. All right, and that's not an easy thing to do. Now, if you're a pikeach like Korach was, if you're a clever person like Korach was, it's difficult. Okay, so this is the inner meaning of what these examples that are very famous. They appear in the Rashi, that a talis which is all blue, does it need a tzitzit? Or a house which is filled with books, does it need a mezuzah? These actually come from the Midrash. So what is the Midrash trying to point out to us? They're trying to point out that Korach was trying to use his seichel, he's trying to use his rational side, and he did not want to go in faith. He didn't want to do the tikkun of the small, okay, of the left-hand line. So now we can see why the Zohar was saying that. He did not want to correct his vessels of receiving. And for Korach, his vessels of receiving were mostly ones of the brain, mind ones. So this is a bad advice. What comes in rationale, okay, is what he wanted to go by. He only wanted to go by what was logical, all right? But what we receive in our knowledge is actually a will to receive, okay? And that needs to be it needs to be governed by our faith, not the other way around. There's a very nice phrase which in the sages which say, Chochmat goyim ta'amin, Torat goyim al ta'amin. Okay? In other words, you can believe the wisdom of the other nations. The other nations is our wills to receive. Okay, when we need to come to science and maths and stuff like that, it's perfectly okay to use those sciences, all right? But not when it comes to faith. Faith needs to be from the Torah, all right? So faith needs to be lamala me'adat, from the other paradigm, okay? The paradigm which is above rationale, which we said earlier. Do you remember right at the beginning of the Zohar, we opened this beautiful paradigm of consciousness, of giving, of the paradigm of the Torah. Okay, that's why the Zohar is really helpful here, because it actually describes what that paradigm of consciousness is, which is lamala me'adat, above knowledge. The Torah gives us that faith. Okay, do you remember Rabbi Abba said, whoever holds onto the tree of faith, the tree of life, okay, he'll be saved from all the separations in and death, etc. Okay, Nikar Tzat Hashem. So this holding on to Torah, holding on to the faith, Ze L'olam Yamod, that's going to last forever. Kamo she'amar Rabbi Avi Mori Rabbi Zatzal, as my father of blessed memory said, היות שהבורא בחר שהנביאים ילכו בדרך של למעלה מהדעת, בטח ידע שזה הדרך הטובה ביותר. Now, we often feel that if God had only made things a bit easier, like that we could see God's actions or we could see the reward of the mitzvot, everybody would be, the whole world would look better. You know, people would only, if they only could see that by doing a mitzvah, they would, you know, things would be better and things would be good and they'd get a reward for it. Then, you know, we would say, well, you know, everybody would want to be doing mitzvot and everybody would avoid doing sins because they could see the consequences. But we have to believe, okay, that the Creator created it this way, that the created beings will go in the way of faith. And he for sure knows that that is the best way for us. That's the counsel of God. So it's this way that a person can come to his perfection and come to dveikut with God, which is exactly the opposite of what Korach wanted to do. He wanted to go everything according to his knowledge, all right, and get it all, you know, under his control. But that's not the way of Torah. Okay. Another piece that Rabbi Baruch Shalom, a call out if you've got any questions. All right, and I better stop for a moment. Say, is there any questions? There you go. All right, any questions or comments or anything? No, all right, then let's carry on. Here's another piece, and I like this piece that Rabbi Baruch Ashlag says. It's very short, but I think there's a lot in it. In the Zohar, okay, and this is what we read, that a person needs to include the left-hand side, which is his desire for receiving, his desire for receiving, in his desire for giving, that his receiving shall only be for the sake of giving. As HaKadosh Baruch Hu shoeh b'tocho, then the Holy Blessed One is inspiring him. He's there with him. Perush, explanation. Shelo l'she'er b'vchinat hashmol u'lechakot ad shetitkaber tfilato. Don't get stuck on the left-hand side and wait for your prayer to be answered. Ela tekef lavo liyamin lamala me'adat. But go straight to the right-hand line, which is in faith. Okay? What does it mean? When we're on the left-hand line, one of the things of the left-hand line is it's the aspect of receiving, but it's also the aspect of truth. Okay? Because what happens when we're doing the work of the left-hand line is actually to see where we are in truth. And we see where we are, we see what our lacks are, because the left-hand line feels lack. It says, it looks at all the things it's not receiving and it feels bad. And it says, dear God, I'm not receiving this and I'm not receiving that and I'm feeling bad about this. And I can see all sorts of things, okay? And it can also say, you can also look on the left-hand line and see where we're not serving God, because it's an aspect of truth. It's an aspect of reality. Okay, like we said earlier, we can't ignore the left-hand line. It's part of us, all right? So the left-hand line is actually the part which we pray from, okay? Because prayer is associated with lack. If you don't have a lack, you've got nothing to pray for. But if you feel lack, then there's a prayer. And the lack is associated with our desires to receive, okay? So when we're on the left-hand line and we make a prayer, he says, don't wait there. Go straight away to the right-hand line. Go straight away to faith. That means trust that our prayers will be answered in the best possible way. All right? Don't just keep going with the prayer. You know, sometimes we just have to let go and trust that our prayer will be answered. Move to the right-hand line. I read in one of Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach's writings that he says the same thing, that we need to pray to God for what we need and we need to turn to God. But once we've done it, we have to have the faith that God heard our prayer, okay? And not to keep going over and over and over. Okay, God heard our prayer. and we move over to the right-hand line in faith. Okay, Ulam ta'anat Korach haya b'toch hadat. But Korach's complaints did not move. He was just on the left-hand line. He didn't move over to the right-hand line. He didn't move over to faith. He didn't. Now, this was actually the problem, because Moses is, like I said, he was the shepherd of faith. So Korach was like bashing against him, bashing against his authority, because the way Korach wanted was that he wanted everything to be revealed. Now, we're not going to read the next one. Now, have we got time? Yes, we've got time. Machloket Korach. Yeah.
I was thinking about that. You're talking about praying from the left hand and then moving to faith on the right. What about, does this kind of part where I've heard people say, like, you pray from your need, but then you also give in faith on the thing that you need, like, say, you need, I don't know, finances, but try to give tzedakah anyway. So that would be kind of, I guess
that's a nice, yeah, I've heard that too. That's very nice, isn't it?
Yeah,
like,
I guess that would be faith. I guess that would be faith. You'd have to be really in faith to be able to give at a time you have a need, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So you start from the left, your need, but then you move over to the right, not only just in mental action, but physical, or you're giving.
That's a very nice idea. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I've heard that. Yes, that's quite right. Definitely. If that's possible, yes, we should definitely do that. Lovely. Okay. Or you could, another way to do it is, if you look at the way the prayers are set up, first we praise God. Okay. First you have praises. Then you have your request. Then you straight away go to thank you. Okay. If you look at the way the Yedidah and everything is set out, first we have the, Psuke de Zimra. First we have the praises, that we praise God, and we have total belief that he can answer our prayers. Then we have the Yedidah, okay, which is where we have our requests. All right. And then straight away we go to thank you. Right, which again, it's exactly that.
Yeah, so it seemed like it helps you move over to the right, like solidly move over there, so you don't stay in that left hand kind of mode or something.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Okay, great. All right, let's have a look at this one. Machloket Korach al Moshe. The argument of Korach against Moses. To understand, I'll just read it. We don't have too much time, so I'll read it quite quickly. To explain the issue of the machloket of Korach and Moses, Moses said that Moses said that everything that Korach maintained was not against him, it was against God. But Korach said that he actually believed in God, as it says, Kol Yedidah kulam kadoshim. He said, why are you set up yourselves only to be prophets and to be the Kohanim? All the congregation is holy. As the sages said, everybody heard on Sinai, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am the Lord your God. But he didn't want to believe in Moses. Now, he said, before he had some personal thing he had to give up, he also believed in Moses. But what happened? Who was his younger relation or something, okay? He got made to be the head of the tribe and not or the head of the group, and not Korach. Oh, because he was the younger one and not the one who he thought should be, which was himself. He understood that he should be the one to be the president. He came from the older brother. And he needed to give up. He needed to give up his presidency. Okay. And that was tough for him. Okay. But he needed to believe that this is what Moses had been told, that God had commanded Moses that way. So now he's no longer really believing in Moses. Moshe Amar, כי עוד לא מספיק בזה שאתה מאמין בשם, כי התורה ניתנה על ידי, ואתה מוכרח להאמין בי. But Moses said, it's not enough that you believe in God, but the Torah was given by me, and you also need to believe in me. כי בדרך השכל אין להבין את התורה, כי דעת בעלי בתים הפוכה מדעת תורה. רק לאמונת חכמים זקוקים לדעת מהי דעת תורה. יראת שמיים בלי תורה אין זה באפשרות, כי לא עם הארץ חסיד, כמו שכתוב, הלוואי אותי עזבו ותורתי שמרו. Now he's telling us something very interesting, okay? Because in our normal way, okay, Moses said, the Torah was given by me and you need to believe in me. Now, in the logical way, we can't understand the Torah. Why not? Because the way we understand it in a normal way is that we keep the Torah for the Almanat Lekabel Pras, in order to receive a prize. Okay? That's the way most people keep Torah, for the sake of getting a prize. Okay? They think, okay, if I keep the Torah that God told us to keep, then I'm going to get a reward. Either in this world, then my kids will be happy and healthy, and my finances will work out, and I won't get sick. And in the Garden of Eden, I'll have a nice place when I die. And most people have that view. They do, okay? Now, in order to understand what the Torah is really telling us, that's actually the opposite of what the Torah is telling us. We need emunat chachamim. We need the sages who already attained high spiritual levels, okay, and have this insight in order to know what the Torah is really telling us. And it's telling us that we have to keep Torah lishma, for its own sake, not for the sake of getting something, but because God is great, okay, and because of Gadlut Hashem, because of the greatness of God, and that we need to be in affinity of form with him, okay, and we need to be giving just as God is giving. And therefore, we can't be doing Torah just in order to get something. We need to be doing the Torah in order to give to God. That's what it's about. Yirat Shamayim b'li Torah ein ze efsharut. You can't get Yirat Shamayim without Torah. It's not possible. Okay? Ki lo am ha'aretz chasid, kmo shekatuv, halavai oti azavu torati shamaru. If only they would, forsake me, but keep my Torah. In other words, to keep the Torah in the way that the sages are teaching us, okay? The way that Moshe Rabbeinu taught us, through faith that this is what God wants us to do, and we do it through giving, not through receiving, okay? That's what it's talking about here. We've got enough time. Well, not really. That was the real piece that I wanted to bring. Okay? The piece about that we need the emunat chachamim, the belief in our sages, belief in the great Torah sages who taught us the right way. Okay? And this was the very first rebellion against the sage, was the rebellion of Korach against Moses, all right? Because he did not want to have the representative, the Torah representative, the one who's given us the Torah. He didn't want to believe in him, okay? And we need to believe in the Chachamim. We need to believe in the great Torah sages who've taught us the way how to come to Torah, okay, and how to interpret it correctly. And that's why we learn, okay, because we need their guidance. All right. So this is the piece that I think is really, really, really valuable. Okay. To understand that we need emunat chachamim, which is what Korach did not want. All right. Okay. Now, if anybody wants to read more of this, I can certainly. You know what I'll do? I'll pop this material onto the WhatsApp group. Okay. So anybody who wants to finish off reading these lovely pieces from Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag can do so. If they can if you get stuck with the Hebrew or something, you can always call me up or send me an email or something. All right, and I'll give you a hand.
Yedidah?
Yeah.
Yedidah?
Yeah.
How would Korach have acquired the ability to really understand the meaning of like seeing Moses as a Torah Chacham? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, these people were in Egypt. They had no concept of what a Torah Chacham is. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, I don't agree with you at all. I mean,
how would you acquired that understanding?
The truth of the matter is that I've heard Rabbi Gottlieb say this several times. He says we have no understanding at all of the greatness of this generation. This generation that came out of Egypt were called Dor De'ah, the ones who actually saw God, the revelation of God. I mean, he saw Moses, you know, and Aaron produce these incredible, you know, through their channeling, if you like, I don't know the word really, you know, through the staff of God, produced 10 plagues. Okay.
Right.
All right. But it wasn't. It didn't happen on its own. Moses was the one who brought down how to do the Pesach sacrifice. Moses was the one who's been giving the mitzvot. Moses was the one who told them, you know, who gave them the hope they were going to get out of Egypt. Moses was the one who, when, you know, they've got stuck on the edge of the Red Sea and Pharaoh zooming along after them, he was the one who, you know, who God said, stretch your staff out over the sea, and the sea parted. I mean, he saw God acting through Moses the whole way.
Okay. Why would he go into opposition to why wouldn't he realize that everything that Moses was doing was the actions that God wanted him to do?
I think what the Torah is trying to show us here is that how our own ego can blind us. Do you know what I mean?
That's pretty blind.
Yes, but I mean, that's what these stories are for. That's what we started off by saying. These stories are not history stories. Okay?
I know.
These are stories to teach us. They're about our relationship. And it's amazing how blind we can get. So here was a man, it says, Ta'ava v'kavod, what was the other one? Oh gosh. Takes a person out of the world. There's three things which take a person out of the world. One is ta'ava. Kina. Thank you, Susan. Ta'ava, kavod, and kina. So you've got three things which take a person out of the world. So I think there was Korach. He had all of them, didn't he? He had, you know, the desire to be the Nasi. He wanted the kavod. He wanted to be the head of this, you know, he got 250 people all lined up behind him. Okay. And he was jealous of Moses and of Aaron. He had all three of those. So, you know, so it blinded him totally. It just blinded him. And it's just amazing how blind we can get.
Yedidah, it also seems to me he was struggling with his intellect versus his faith.
Yeah.
And a lot of our mitzvot don't actually make logical sense to us, like shaknes, let's say.
Oh my gosh, totally.
You just have to do it. It's just about faith.
I think that's what this week's Siddur is, you know, Chukat, isn't it, with the red heifer? I mean, that's just, you know, the classic, you know, that there's no logic there at all, and it's just not understandable with our minds. And yeah, and he wanted to bring it into, you know, into a logical framework, you know, that sort of box-like thing where it all fits in. And it doesn't work that way.
I'm reminded of another story where, remember when they gathered at the foot of the mountain and God spoke and they started to tremble, and they all turned around and said, no, we're too scared of this God. You go and talk to him, Moses, and you come back and tell us what, and we will do what he says. So, I mean, they should have known that Moses stood in the presence of God, and they were the ones who sent him to go and get the information.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. That's exactly right. So, I mean, Korach should have remembered that. It's amazing how our ego can help us forget things.
I think that that's something that kind of is parallel to, you know, our individual struggles as well, because we'll have one moment when something is really clear and we're able to be in a place of faith or openness to things, and then we're not there anymore. And I think that that's what happened to Am Yisrael, and I think that that's something that happens to us as individuals too.
I think that's totally, I mean, I can find that in myself a lot, you know. I feel, you know, like actually the story of Korach and why I go into it actually speaks to me, because, you know, I can see that there are aspects in me which could fall into that, you know, and I find it's kind of a helpful story, because it reminds us, one, how blind we can get. It reminds us where those where the three aspects of lust and appetite and honor and desire for honor and jealousy all can take us, and how blind that can actually make us. And those are the actually attributes that every single person's got some of those, you know, because that's the three things that make up the basic appetites in the human being. So, you know, it's really an interesting story about how somebody, and he wasn't nobody. He was, you know, it was a big, you know, he was a head. He was one of the main of the people of the family of the Levites. You know, it's just amazing where, you know, how it can, if it could grab Korach, it could grab any of us in a way.
Well, couldn't it be because he was Dafka? He was in the constant presence of Moshe Rabbeinu, and Moshe Rabbeinu was a little bit different from the rest of us, because he had that ability to be humble and really be before God and be small.
Absolutely, he was. Moses was like really understood that everything that he had came from God and that nothing was coming from him, and he really understood that. And in fact, that was actually one of the things he said. You know what? Have I taken anything from you? You know, have I even taken anything at all? Oh, and he fell on his face with all of this, you know, him and Aaron, they just nullified themselves completely when this began. They just fell on their faces and just, you know, gave themselves up to God at that point, because, you know, it was so horrific to them to think that they were trying to get anything for themselves at all.
The new thought that I had listening to you today was that that maybe it was Dafka exactly because of the fact that Korach was in the presence of real holiness, and he was struggling with it himself, and he was intelligent enough to see that there was a difference and a differential, and perhaps that's where some of his jealousy came from. So, you know, it came from part of his struggle.
It might well have been. I mean, that's a very interesting observation, isn't it? That sometimes, you know, when you can see somebody who's really able to come close to God and to negate himself, and you know you can't, there could be very much a feeling of jealousy there, and, you know, and trying to, in a way, overturn it, you know, trying to, you know, prove yourself as being better. There's a lot of psychological elements there that we can all sort of, you know, see where we don't want to act. You know, where it's like the warning story, you know.
I read some rabbi said, I can't remember who now, that Korach was the same person that back in Egypt remember when Moses killed the Egyptian that was whipping, that Korach was the Jewish guy who told Moses the next day who assigned, what's the word? Who assigned you judge or ruler over us, and made Korah realize that they knew what he had done and made him flee.
Yeah, I also heard that, but it wasn't Korach. It was one of his the fellow conspirators. It was Datan or Abiram, one of those.
So
I think, wait a minute, it might even have been Datan and Abiram who were actually fighting. I can't remember, but you're right. You're completely right.
So that shows like
it was
a
then,
history and a resentment that kind of had started in another place, so like years before.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Again, that's a midrash, and again, the midrash are there to show us aspects of relationships or aspects of characteristics. They're not necessarily historical. They're there to teach us about, and this is, again, you're right, somebody who was resentful, people who can be resentful and they can hold on to resentment for a long time. Who do you think you are, kind of thing, telling us. Absolutely. That's why when you saw two Hebrews fighting, it was Datan and Abiram or something like that. It's a midrash. Yeah, you're right. Again, it's like, you don't have to be too, it's not historical, but it's showing us aspects of ourselves. And it's a teaching story. It's like, no, this is not where we want to be. This is not where we want to be acting from. I really like the way the Zohar opens it by showing us the positive, showing us, what the paradigm of consciousness of Torah is and how beautiful it is. And then it goes into the Korach bit. So I really like that in the Zohar. Great.
Thank you, Yedidah.
Oh, good. Did you enjoy it?
Thank you.
Lovely.
Yes.
All right.
Shabbat shalom.
All right. Well, yeah. Have a lovely Shabbat.
Shabbat Shabbos.
Shabbat shalom. Okay.
Shabbat
And
shalom.
well, see you all next
Shabbat
week.
shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.
Thank you, Yedidah.
Ooh.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Lisa Egan, Shabbat Shalom to you.
Hi, Shabbat shalom.
Nice to meet you, everybody.
We'll have to be in touch.
Oh,
Very much.
lovely. Why? How are you?
Hashem. Bye-bye.
Your contact details so I can send you the Zoom invite again. Eliana Aiken, I can see.
Oh, yes. Susan was kind enough.
Oh, that's fine. Okay.
Was kind enough to give me the Zoom invite, and I really, really enjoyed the class. Thank you so much.
Okay, so if you want, okay, so that's fine. So Susan can always pass it on to you. Otherwise, I can join you onto the WhatsApp group or something, and then I can always pass you on the info.
I think Susan gave me, right? You gave me everything I need to be part of this group, I believe.
But that's fine then.
You
That's
should
great.
work with Yedidah. She really knows how to be part of the group.
Okay. Well, God willing,
Okay.
we will all see each other again.
Okay,
All
great.
right.
Lovely.
Shabbat
All
shalom,
right.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you, Yedidah.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
again.